Welcome to the Advaita Ventures Leadership course. Today we're going to talk about performance and accountability, and more specifically, why you need an operating system. So I got a lot of stuff up here on the whiteboard. You can see something that looks like an organizational chart, and then you can see some of these components. An organization's values and vision, that organizational chart, the KPIs or key performance indicators, your weekly meetings and your core processes. Now, what we're going to talk about today is developing an operating system that makes all of this fit together seamlessly. If I had one recommendation for someone new in a leadership role, especially if it's at the head of an organization or a department, it would be read the book Traction. I promise you will not be disappointed. Again, it's Traction. And I'm reiterating this because it would have saved me a year's worth of pain had I found this book earlier. In this system, what they do is they really make it simple. They talk about any sort of organization, whether it's a business, a nonprofit, they all have to have these three elements. You've got to have money to provide the product or service you do. You've got to have sales and marketing so that people find you. And you've got to have the operations that actually provide the service or make the product. Now, this may seem simple, but what's so powerful is that it is simple. When you go through an implementation process of developing an operating system, some of the stuff seems so obvious. That's actually the beauty of it, is that once you have a full operating system, everything becomes more clear and less chaotic. But what's important is that all of this stuff is tied together. And often we go down rabbit holes, trying to solve discrete problems, and we lose sight of the entire, the big picture. We start focusing on the trees instead of the forest. The benefit of having an operating system is that it allows you to increase your performance and accountability throughout your organization in a very fair and balanced way. If you don't have an operating system, people are often going to be on a different page. They think they're doing their job really well, but you're measuring them on something different. That's where KPIs come in. And then when you start talking about organizational charts, people often have confusion around who they're reporting to for what. And one of the big things from the book Traction is that you can only have one person in each of these seats. So for me, as the CEO of a company, I'm not in any of these seats now, but there can only be one person, which means you don't have someone who's sharing operations. Ultimately, I want to be able to look down and say, hey, I have questions about something operationally. I'm going to one person. Ultimately, they're responsible. Same thing for finance. I don't want to be looking to two different people for a report on, last month's P&L. I want to go to one person. All of this seems simple, but often there's a lack of clarity around the roles. So if I could give any bit of advice to a new leader or someone who is taking over a bigger role, it would be to read this book, Traction, and it will provide you a very good practical baseline of how to run your organization more efficiently, more effectively, and ultimately, a lot more peacefully. Implementing Traction was the single best thing I ever did. Before we went through Traction, I drove people crazy because I would go read a book. I would want to fix something in marketing, and I would go read a book on that. Then I would want to fix something in finance. Then I'd want to change something in the way we did our financial operations. I'd want to go look into clinical work and say, why aren't we doing something this way? And I caused a lot of whiplash. After we read the book Traction as a team and went through an implementation process, our roles were a lot more clear, and I was able to have a good framework for the entire organization. Again, I would have saved a year of time and energy had I picked this up earlier, so I hope you'll check it out. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.